Welcome back to Collecting Issues, where this week we'll be taking a look at the one hand and the six fingers, collecting issues 1 to 10 of the 2024 run from Image Comics by Ram V, Dan Waters, Laurence Campbell, Sumit Kumar, Lee Loughridge, Aditya Bidikar, and Tom Muller.
So the comic book education continues?
We're talking inappropriate comic books.
You're into comic books, aren't you?
That's comic book shit.
Like in the comic books.
Whew. I also did it in the car, Benjamin. But Benjamin, I think funnily enough for this, you meant to say collecting issues 1 to 5 of the one hand and 1 to 5 of the six fingers.
That would be the most accurate way of summarising what's going on in this week's episode, Michael. Yes.
Because we're collecting issues, the monthly comic book club. And generally we tend to read things in collected form. But these weren't published in collected form originally, like most comics. I'm not really making a point there. But it's slightly unusual how this was published.
Yes, Michael. Very importantly, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't read the one hand and the six fingers, or 1 to 5 of the one hand and 1 to 5 of the six fingers, go away. Go away now.
Fuck off out of here.
Get
We
out
don't
of
want
here.
you. Now, you might be very intimidated by Ben with his new hench trapezoid muscles. But don't worry about that. He's not actually being intimidating. He's doing this for your own good. Because the one hand and the six fingers, Benjamin, chock-a-block with twists.
It's jam-packed with M. Night Shyamalan moments, Michael. Just bursting at the seams. Well, no, M. Night Shyamalan moments when M. Night Shyamalan was decent. Was good at his
it's the
job.
present day.
Yes, and didn't make films that existed solely to promote his daughter's musical career.
Oh. Anyway, What Ben is trying to suggest is that you feck off out of here and then you come back once you've read it, because we can't do an almost hour-long monthly book club about a comic book such as The One Hand and the Six Figures by Ram V and Dan Waters and mates without necessarily spoiling things, especially something which is twist heavy and has so many twists that end up being not genre defining, but what's the word I'm looking for, Ben? What's the word to say that the twists put it into a genre? Defining the genre.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so go read it first before you listen to this or watch this.
Go and do that now. This is like that scene in the movie where the dog has to leave because the young man realizes his life will be better in the wild. And he's like, go on, get out of here. Skedaddle. Scram.
Yeah, it's exactly that. But come back, though, at the end, like the dog.
Yeah,
always
come back
does
at
in
the
films.
end and listen to the podcast.
Hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen and friends beyond the binary, if you enjoy this kind of hot and cold treatment of the audience, you might like Collecting Issues. We are a monthly comic book club, and you can get in touch with us in a whole bunch of different ways. You can follow us on Instagram at Collecting Issues. You can follow us on TikTok. You can hop up on our Discord, and that way you can have a chat about all the things you're reading and all the comics that we're going to talk about on this podcast in the upcoming months. More to come at the end of this episode on that, ladies and gentlemen, because for once in our lives, we're organised.
Semi-organised.
Semi-organised. But you can get in touch with us in a few different places. You can find them all down below in the description. If you enjoy the episode, please consider giving us a review wherever you're listening. And if you have a pal who likes comics or sci-fi or cyberpunk or any of that, send this episode to them directly. Lash it on to them there. Go on.
Yeah. If you don't, Ben will crush you like a can with his new traps.
It's going to be a very uncomfortable episode for everybody. Michael, speaking of uncomfortable things happening, what's even going on in this comic?
That's very good, Benjamin. That's very good. Okay, it's the future.
Sort of.
Sort of the future. We'll get into that. It's sort of the future. And things are... Okay, first of all, it's two parallel stories, which, when it was originally published, I think this was published monthly. And
yes.
I don't know what would be going on in your brain if you were only reading the one hand or if you're only reading the six fingers. But as a collected issue, there's a little bit of redundancy in there being the same story from two different perspectives.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the future. kind of. And there's a man, and he's a detective, and he's a hard-bitten noir. God damn it! He's a hard-bitten. My first ever podcast. Forgot to put my phone on silent. Can you believe it?
That's my favorite thing.
In the year of our Lord 2025. 8 years we've been doing this, Ben, and I forget to put my phone on silent. Anyway, he's a hard-bitten detective, like you might have seen in some of your favourite Stereotypes. And he's retiring. It's his last day on the job. And just before he retires, Benjamin, what happens? Only the case that defined his career crosses his desk again for one last time.
Yeah, that's pretty much. He's too damn old for this shit, Michael.
He's too damn old for this shit.
He's been dragged back on in there, and then of course on the other side of this, folks, we have Johannes Vale, who is a humble archaeology. I forgot how to say
Fabulous.
the word.
Fabulous. I forgot to silence my phone. Ben forgot how to speak.
One of those is much better than the other. He's a humble archaeology student, folks, and he's just trying to make it by in the big city. But very importantly, he's awful smart. Is our Johannes? He's a smart young man, and the rest of the city doesn't really keep up with his pace. He's a bit too good for these plebs he's all around, and then all of a sudden, things get a little bit darker for Johannes because he had a traumatic backstory with a missing father. Or does he?
Or does he?
These are the questions that keep us up. But anyway, Johannes comes to with flashes of a horrific ritual killing in his mind. And he doesn't know why he's done that. Why have I done that, he says. What's going on?
Hold on a minute, Benjamin. That ritual killing is the very same ritual killing that the hard-bitten detective is investigating in The One Hand.
Dun, dun, dun.
Very good. Benjamin, these are written by separate creative teams.
Yes, they are.
Tell me how that's working.
Working on the one...
Dig into it there.
As we said, it's...
Tell us about it. Tell us about the two creative teams.
You're so fuck.
We haven't done a lot of podcasting recently, ladies and gentlemen. We're remembering how to do this.
So,
yes.
On the one hand, has
good.
There's a little bit of wordsmanship for you there, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. We have Ram V and Laurence Campbell working on that one, and the one hand focuses on Ari Nasser or Ari Nasser. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly, but he's the detective who's hunting down this ritual killer. And the vexing thing for Ari is that he's only gone and done this twice before.
He's a waste of time then.
Yeah. He's caught this killer before, and somehow it keeps coming back. And that's kind of the hook of the mystery, Michael, for Ari. And in that team, what we get is a very traditional noir style aesthetic that runs through the story. And I mean that both from a narrative point of view and from an art style choice, an aesthetic point of view. It is heavily noir. It's got tons of really solid, rigid line shadows running throughout. It's a grim and gritty city. There's not a lot of hope on the streets of Neo Novena, the city where this is set, Michael. And it kind of follows that down. It is set against the backdrops of underfunded police offices and replicant-style brothels with huge looming factories in the background. And yeah, it's a grim, grimy, dirty old narrative, and it follows Ari's perspective as this
he's from
ugly
East London,
case.
isn't he?
Is he? Is he from East London?
He's Ari. He's Ari.
He's Ari Nasser. I hope he's from East London. That would be much better. But anyway,
No, he's not Benjamin. He's from Neo Novena. Remember?
he is. He's from Neo Novena. I do remember, Michael. And then on the other hand of that, Michael, we have Dan Waters, another
Yes.
kind of powerhouse of the comic book writing industry. And he's working with Sumit Kumar on The Six Fingers. And that is a very different kind of artistic approach. So this is kind of interesting in a number of different ways because both Dan Waters and Ram V wrote their comics separately. So it's not a collaboration in the traditional sense, in that both writers were together and kind of pitching these ideas. What would happen is that Ram would complete an issue and then he would pass on what was completed thus far to Dan, and Dan would then write his issue of the Six Fingers as a complementary or contrasting perspective. And it leads to this really winding, well, I think it leads to a sense of a winding, convoluted narrative, but in the best sense, because what we're getting is a mystery both for each of the characters, Ari and Johannes, and then a mystery for ourselves that we're putting together. This probably would have been quite enjoyable, Michael, to pick up issue by issue if you were looking to fill in the gaps. It's kind of like a jigsaw for readers. It's interesting.
It is. Having said that, Benjamin, I think one of the reasons that we do collecting issues of the monthly comic book club is that when you're reading lots of different comics per month, it's very easy to lose track of mysteries.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Personally speaking, this isn't a review or anything, but personally speaking, I find mystery comics much more easy to stay engaged with collected than monthly, because
go on.
Because there might be a mystery and you go, oh, that's intriguing, and then you put it down and a month passes, and in that month you read lots of other comics and you read a book and you watch television shows, and then you pick up the comic a month later and you're not intrigued. You can't remember.
Yeah.
So personally, I feel that, especially in something like this, which is purposefully disjointed is the wrong word, because disjointed feels like a negative word, but purposefully screwy in its method of storytelling.
Yes.
I thought that barring a couple of little crossover moments, you could read, if you stripped off the creative teams, if you stripped off the creative teams and the splash panels of the issue breaks in this, you could be convinced that this is just a single writer and creative team working on two slightly different styles to create two sides of one story. Yeah.
So I think it's important to note that you said like two slightly different styles, and there's a very good reason that, because the art style of Sumit Kumar and of Laurence Campbell are very distinct. They're very different, but they work together across these 10 issues because they've used the same colorist on both. So Lee Loughridge is the colorist for the comic, and he works across both plot lines, if you want, and he colored the whole run of 10 issues. And I think that's a really smart move, because it gives you that kind of cohesive understanding of the thing. And like you said, you can pick it up, and if you didn't understand the publishing context of this, it would still seem coherent to you as you moved your way through. So yeah, absolutely. A great observation from yourself, Michael. Michael,
thanks,
do you want to explain
Benjamin.
the hat that you're wearing?
I'm just wearing a hat. I've not had a haircut, so my bald head is kind of fuzzy. I look like a Ginny Joe or a particularly hairy peach. That's why I'm wearing a hat.
I wasn't attempting to shame Michael's haircut. I was more asking him to explain the creator collective above his head.
Nah.
Nah.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
So
YouTube gives us
I
money,
think what's
it's fine.
interesting. I think what's interesting and informative for the eventual reveal of this particular comic as well is that it was originally called Project Gemini by Ram V. And
was it?
Yeah, the original pitch for the comic, when it was originally being leaked out to various press outlets like AIPT or something like that, was that it was going to be called Project Gemini from Dan Waters and Ram V.
Okay.
And then it was Dan Waters who came up with the idea of the mutation on Johannes's hand, to show like a divergence from the system or a change in the status quo, as it were. And that's how the comic got its name. And as it continues with, and we'll look into this when we're looking at tropes and themes, ladies and gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, because it's important to understand it as one hand and the other hand, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Anyway, Michael, it was published like this, and it's become a bit of a hit. It's a bit of a comic book writer's comic, as it were, in the same way you'd say a comics for comedians. But people really enjoyed this. They've really taken to it.
Yeah, an interesting comment I saw, because Benjamin, sometimes when you suggest a comic book for this, I go, oh yeah, that's good, I'll read that, or I've already read it. This is one of those rare ones where you suggested a comic book to me, and I went, sorry, what? And then I went to the comic book shop, and in the comic book shop I said, hey guys, can you get me a copy of this? And they said, sorry, a copy of what? This is was very much under the radar, but it's peeping up out from under the radar now, and people are going to be like, I read it originally, you know. I was there in the first year, so all you people coming to this in 2030 going, oh, that's a good comic. That was an overlooked gem of the 2020s. No, we were there nearly from the start. Not us, but the people who read it.
The people
originally.
who claim as much. It's
Yes.
them. If you did hear from us, ladies and gentlemen, go away with you. Look at you go. Look at you go. Look at you. Look at us little trendsetters here on Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club. It's great stuff from us. Great stuff from us.
Is it
So
good,
influential. It is. It's pretty good, Michael. So this is interesting from a narrative point of view. So I suppose the elevator pitch for this, Michael, if you wanted to look at it, is, or the way that I look at it is, and this is not meant to be derogatory or demeaning of the initial content, but it is a product of a lot of sci-fi influences. So the pitch would be, Neo Novena is the site where Neo from the Matrix becomes self-aware, but he doesn't have Morpheus to hold his hand. And he didn't get a lot of choice in what was happening. And rather than Agent Smith being the mysterious man in black from the FBI, Agent Smith is Deckard, and he's also as confused as anyone else as to why he's being a Blade Runner for this mysterious serial killer in his city. Is as close as I can get to the elevator pitch for this. And that, I think, identifies a lot of the influences that this comic wears on its sleeves.
Yeah. Benjamin, have you ever heard of the film Blade Runner?
You have, yeah. It's pretty...
Yeah,
it's
and
one
did
of
you
those
enjoy it?
underground hits. Yeah.
One of those underground hits from the 80s. And did you enjoy it? Have you ever heard of the film, the 1999 film, The Matrix, Benjamin?
Oh, I think it was pretty popular there for a season, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah.
an
It
influential
was, it was decent enough. Have you ever seen the film, Benjamin, the contemporaneous film Dark City?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, actually, Michael.
Yeah, have you
again,
seen
yeah.
that film? And would you say that you liked all three of those films?
Oh, they were all great. Yeah, they were pretty good.
All great films. Well, I've got a bloody comic book for you here, then. It's this one.
And Michael would slap this hefty tome down in
I
front.
go, here, eat that,
Yeah.
you son of a bitch.
So that's pretty much it, and it's got a little sprinkle of Memento over the top of it
Just a
with
bit.
Guy Pearce. Just from Johannes' perspective, I guess. But yeah, so we're introduced, and we've already talked a little bit about this. Ari and Johannes have two very different perspectives on the world. And it makes for a pretty interesting read. What I liked about this, Michael, and something that I think comics often struggle to pull off, is the mystery does deepen issue by issue. So you're presented with this concept of a cat and mouse hunt at the beginning. And, you know, Johannes is the brilliant but brooding kind of serial killer, and Ari is the weary but begrudging and stubborn as a mule detective. And then somewhere around issue 6 or 7, we start to leave the well-trod path of the hard-boiled detective fiction or the psychopath novel or the thriller genre, and we start to run into, wait, what do you mean there's labyrinths that open up specifically for Johannes to use to complete his serial? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Nobody told me this was a big sci-fi. I thought this was just 7.
I thought this was just 7 with cyberpunk sprinkled on top, but it isn't. We start to get unusual revelations from the city itself, and as boring as the phrase is, the city itself is a character.
Very memey.
And we get a bit of that going on. So, you know, this does a great job of deepening its own mystery in a way that I think is often lost, not only in comics, but in storytelling in general. Because the more you reveal of something, the less mysterious it is. And that means that the intrigue or the engagement that you initially got kind of fades over time. I suppose a little bit harkening back to what you were saying about, you know, if you were to read this month by month, you'd probably lose interest much quicker.
Yeah, because you wouldn't know what was a twist and what you already knew. And this is just, I think I'm just outing myself here as a bad comic book reader because I can't remember what happens if I take a month break between issues. But Benjamin, what you're getting at basically is with this, when I was reading it, every time we came to the end of an issue, I would close it cross my legs and put the comic book on my knee and say, the plot thickens.
Yeah, and that's an accurate way of reading this comic, I think, Michael. But yeah, so let's dive into the narrative here. We've already touched on Blade Runner.
All right, it's Blade Runner.
This is a society that uses
Society from Blade Runner.
Human replicants.
It's Blade Runner.
As...
It's just Blade Runner, Ben.
Okay, it's just Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
I think it's a little harsh, but if you're looking for a narrative parallel for the kind of society that Neo Novena is, this is the early days of Blade Runner, I think. It isn't quite the monolithic kind of impossible to comprehend megacity that we might see in Judge Dredd or that we might have seen in Blade Runner or even Alien to our own concept. This is the early days of one of those societies. And Neo Novena is more like a super aggressive and built up New York. Not that New York isn't, am I right? Huh? Am I right?
Hey-o. Speaking of caps. Benjamin, here's the thing though, right? Sorry to cut across your point. It's barely the future in this. It's very much a future of the 80s. Like, we see a flashback to Ari opening a briefcase, and he opens it with a 4-digit tumbler lock.
Yeah.
Like anyone would have on a briefcase in the 80s. There's nothing futuristic in this world except robots.
Yeah, except occasionally, all of a sudden, there's a cog, which is a fully human thinking computer machine that performs highly dangerous tasks with super radioactive material in plants.
Yeah. So we're introduced to these cogs, which sounds like a derogatory term, but we're introduced to them as quite obviously android humanoids. They're of the type of android of, say, Data from Star Trek, maybe without the emotion. They're human-like, but they're clearly distinct. They've got a little bit of a crash test dummy look to them.
Yes, they do.
The cartoon characters and the actual physical objects crash test dummies, not the American band from the 90s.
No, they don't look like them. But yeah, no, that's very interesting. It is the Jetsons' future as opposed to the the deep, like, it's not altered carbon or anything like that. It's not a cyberpunk in the traditional sense. It's cyberpunk in that it has all the themes of like low life, high tech, but it doesn't have a future where...
It doesn't have the high tech though. The only high tech is the robots.
Yeah, because I was looking at a panel here, Michael, and just to prove your point, it's the panel where Ari is visiting a widow, and he goes to a suburb, and in the suburb, this is what it looks like. It's any American city today.
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
just
man
a modern,
watering his
suburb.
grass out the front, and the car is just a little bit futuristic. It's not. Like,
it's still just a car. It's still just a car.
No, go on.
No, you go on.
No, I was just going to say, and it fooled me, because I remember thinking, oh, this is cyberpunk. And then I read it again, and I went, hold the fucking phone.
Yeah.
Hang on.
The
this
analog
isn't cyberpunk at all.
Yeah. Hold the perfectly normal handset, not some sort of built-in digi-brain phone. Hold this 80s analog phone. And then what makes it a surprising kind of twist is, and a very foreshadowing twist, is that when we see Ari with a much younger, glamorous lady, it's revealed to either all be a simulation, or, as it turns out later, she's a much more realistic cog.
Yes, exactly. So that's the character of Nemone, or as she becomes later known in the story, Helene. Or Helene. It could be Helene. I'm never sure which one we're talking about. But what we kind of end up with there is she is the next level of cog. And that becomes a key point in the story. It becomes about recognizing, the traditional concept of a cog within that society, which is the crash test dummy, or at a slightly higher level, there's a cog like Nemone, who is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more able to interact with humans, but still not great
Yes.
if anything goes wrong in the system. And then, Michael, as the mystery
She's Joy,
progresses
then.
in the story, she's Joy. Yeah, she's essentially Joy. Ari Nasser is playing both Deckard from the original Blade Runner and also Kay from Blade Runner 2049. He's both of them put together.
A good bit of K. Reading reading this issue kept bringing me back to Blade Runner 2049, and I was looking at the character of Nimone going, Joy was just like, Kay really misunderstood what Joy was about. Kay
Yes, he
really bought in to what Joy was selling. Joy was nothing special. Joy
At all.
was... Exactly. And while I'm reading this, I'm thinking, is the same thing happening here? Is Nimone designed to be Ari's perfect woman, basically? To set him off on the chase for her.
Yeah, so I suppose in a sense she's a lure for him to some degree, because Nimone is repurposed in like issue 4 or 5 of this, and she becomes a secondary mystery that he tries to track down. And it has one of my favorite forced detective conventions. If you're ever watching a BBC series, or if you're ever watching a HBO series or something like that, one of the things that detective shows will often do is that there's an A plot and a B plot, and both of them are mysteries, and eventually they converge, even though in the beginning they could never have done that. It's like, this is the most ludicrous sort of circumstance that this is a bloody coincidence on steroids. This is silly, but I always enjoy it, because you're like, oh, that's the cog he was getting it off with. That's how it is.
The missing dog turned out to be the killer.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to do that every time, Michael.
Yeah.
But I suppose what sets this a little bit apart, Michael, is that we slowly understand why coincidence increases as this story unfolds. Because underneath all the characters, there is actually an overarching system of conspiracy. And it's not... Those coincidences are being lined up because characters take a certain interest in different things.
Yeah.
The system is taking the most convenient route to its end goal by highlighting things that the characters are already interested in and working them into the mystery, if you want. Or at least that's how I took it.
Yeah, so it turns out that the killer, what's his name, Johannes, is kind of semi-consciously, subconsciously killing very realistic cogs.
Yes.
But Benjamin, I think, and pardon me if I misread this, the big twist then is that there are 3 levels of cogs.
Yeah.
So there are your crash test dummy cogs who are working in your power plants and, you know, doing the dangerous jobs. Then there are your almost indistinguishable cogs who are your sex workers and your factory workers and you're the rest. But then, as it turns out, everyone's cogs, and they just don't know it.
So this was my understanding of it as well. So as this story progresses, Johannes and Ari almost simultaneously stumble on this notion of a highly advanced cog. A cog that people didn't know existed. And Johannes states it very clearly in one line. I can't remember the exact panel, but he just says they made a better cog. And even then, even at that point in the story, he's not aware that everyone is a better cog. He's only aware that better cogs exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's So I suppose we can't go much further than this, Michael, in terms of narratives and tropes, in that, as I said, this diverges off the garden path somewhat significantly from the hard-boiled detective genre and the noir genre, when it leans way more into its sci-fi influences. And the mysteries of that early kind of anachronism, with cogs existing side by side with 1950s suburbia and watering your garden with a regular plastic hose, and desk toys are still the standard clacking balls of a desk toy. that anachronism turns out to be a built-in function of the system. It's a weird misunderstanding of a computer system as it's regenerated a world, or it's given space to the cogs to exist. It's a familiar framework, in this case the early 1990s,
I guess.
at best guess. They have framed the computer simulation, the Matrix, if you want, has placed all of its little cogs within a familiar setting. And the unusual anachronism of the fact that sentient robots exist in the space isn't noticed by the majority of people existing in Neo Novena.
That's a good way of looking at it. I like that. Yeah, I like that they're kind of going like, how come we have like sentient thinking, moving, 100% realistic robots, but we're still using 4-pin tumblers on expensive suitcases? Yeah, that's that's an interesting way of taking it. Benjamin, are you of the opinion then, from what you've just said there, that this entire thing is happening inside a program, that there is no physical world? Are you of the opinion that this is the Matrix? They're in the Matrix?
So that's what I took it to be. I took this to be a more realistic and kind of horrific functioning of the Matrix. So I suppose to contrast that with what the Matrix is, as I understand it, in the classic 1999 film, is the Matrix is just the world, but in digital format. So you can still travel wherever you want or do whatever you like. But in this comic, Michael, I see Neo Novena very much as a sandbox in which a series of processors can exist and process and do all those things, but then ultimately they're not allowed to leave. And that's, for me, breadcrumbed really well by Ram V and Dan Waters, in that they have the conversation with Nimone about being afraid of airplanes. I'd never get on one, she says. I'd never go to an airport. And the entire final act of this, or I suppose the climactic showdown between Ari and Johannes, takes place in an airport. And that's where the final horrific revelation for Ari rears its head. And that revelation is actually a really bizarre moment of horror where he peeks behind the curtain, and all planes seem to be is reprogramming hubs. So you get on your flight, you get a series of memories uploaded to your brain of
People
your
are
holiday.
always dying on plane crashes, but have you ever met someone? Have you ever known someone who did?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of this kind of mystery. So I took it to be a sandbox. They literally cannot leave, or at least they cannot function beyond the confines of the program, if that makes sense. That's how I took it. I don't know how you took it.
I was under the impression that it was very much still a physical world, but it is a facade. That's where I was going with the kind of Dark City. That's where the Dark City vibe started hitting me. The reality of this place is the world that we see behind the scenes when they go, for want of a better term, and I don't think they use this term in the comic, when they go backstage.
Yeah.
That's the real world. I was under the impression that that was the physical real world, and Neo Novena is the wrapping on what is essentially a zoo. And I think someone uses that term. It's a zoo. There are cogs of varying degrees of awareness, cognitive ability, placed in here and then put through experiences. For what? We never find out. Is it for entertainment? Is it a study? Is it... Who knows? But some cogs, the more advanced ones, are the main actors. The likes of Ari. And I think the only two that we meet, maybe three, but I think the only two that we meet, maybe four, are Ari, Johannes, maybe the previous killer, and possibly the art gallery exhibitionist. Ada. They're Ada Wong from Resident Evil. Yeah. They're the highest level cognitive, most aware characters. And everything else there is for their entertainment, basically. Especially Ari. It's strongly implied, if not just flat out stated, this is a mystery for him. It's too much of a coincidence that on the day he was about to retire, here's your dream case, it's back.
Yeah, exactly. Your glory days, literally resurrected, because
Yeah.
he makes his name. That's what they tell us at the beginning. He made his name on these two cases, having done it twice, and he's just out, Michael. He's just out, and they dragged him back in. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what it feels like. Is definitely going on here, and I kind of feel for. I suppose one of the things I really liked about this is it is still a big mystery. Like, we see it
Absolutely.
end, sort of, but we're left with this just scratching your brain, kind of going, what did I just read? What happened? And I didn't feel cheated. And I think that's important.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that. Because I think this is the risk of any great mystery story, where the reveal of the mystery ends up being existential.
Okay.
Where you reach your existential end point, where you find out, oh my God, my father wasn't kidnapped. My father never existed, and the world that I live in never existed, because it's all been a program. There's a risk with that trope of storytelling, of devaluing everything that's happened before it. And going,
sure.
Oh, so none of it matters. And that is true in the sense that, first of all, the killer is revealed in issue 2, or issue 1 of the Six Fingers, basically. So,
yeah,
in terms of a mystery about a serial killer, it's not really much of a mystery. And in terms of the mystery of, let's say, the code that's being written, it's not really an in-world mystery. It's something that gradually unfolds, but uncovering the code doesn't solve anything. Uncovering the code ends the world, essentially, or ends these characters' view of the world and understanding of the world. It's an existential ending, but at the same time, it's not an existential ending like Dark City, for example, where the main character finds out he's been on a spaceship and this was all inside a program the whole time, and now he has to escape from the spaceship. Harry doesn't leave the city and go outside and reach the city limits and find out that most of humanity is dead, and now he's going to go on a separate adventure. You know, it's a slightly odd ending in that this place isn't real. It's all a facade. It's all a zoo. But why? Don't know. Up to you.
What's the reason? What's going on? And I really like that, Michael. I really think that's enjoyable from the point of view of this has so much packed into it, and it would be a disappointment if there was only one clear ending. I think we probably can't go any further here without talking about some of the things that influenced this to be created.
Go on.
And at the heart of this comic, there are kind of 3 major literary references or key influences. You knew I'd come to this, Michael. You knew I'd get you with a literary reference somewhere.
It's always literary references with this guy.
Yeah. So the myth of Sisyphus is one. It's this idea of pushing the boulder. Yeah. The idea of pushing the boulder up to the top of the hill and then getting rolled over. And Ada kind of speaks about that a little bit when she encounters Johannes, and for her, he's the Sisyphus of this story. The second huge literary overarching theme is the pursuit of knowledge. And Johannes is obsessed with this. He's obsessed with the gaps between what we understand. So that's his kind of focus and almost his mania towards the end of the comic. But it also becomes a driving force from an aesthetic point of view and a driving force from a narrative point of view, in that a lot of what we see is the gaps between the established or defined knowledge of the world. And in exploiting those gaps, Johannes is given those opportunities by the city itself. Those tunnels that he travels through, that are shortcuts through Neo Novena, are the gaps between defined knowledge. And because when other characters like Ari, who run on logic, encounter this, it's like magic. And they go, what do you mean? How is he here? And then also halfway across the city. What does that mean? And it's that idea. So that idea is in there as well. And then the final kind of driving narrative of this is, and you're going to hate me for this, but it is a post-capitalist look at society.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Late stage capitalism getting in the neck again.
Now, I won't go down the late stage capitalism route, but when I was digging into this, Michael, there are two major clues. Number one of my favorite things about this is that this comic started as a DM from Ram V to Dan Waters.
And slid into his DMs.
Yeah, Dan Waters quotes it as essentially the comic book collaboration equivalent of "You Up?" ?
Oh, very.
And Ram V had been listening to another podcast, Michael, not our podcast sadly, but another podcast called Philosophy Bites. And in Philosophy Bites, he was listening to the Philosophy Bites episode on post-work societies. So this notion that one day humanity will be free to pursue the creative exploits that it wants. And this is all very timely, I suppose, Michael, with the rise of AI in the background of our own society. You know, this dream that the machines will do all the graft that we don't enjoy, and we'll go off and we'll paint pictures. Where in actual reality, it's a flipped system. And we all still have to clock in for our 9 to 5s, and then a machine can make a picture very quickly for you.
Yeah,
which
machines
is
doing
depressing.
podcasts. Yeah.
So this was the first kind of pillar of this story, and the second one, Michael, we actually get a hint at in the middle of the comic run, when Ari goes to visit the original one-hand killer in prison.
Yes.
It's Odell, I think is his name,
and he's like, I figured it out.
Odell Watts. Odell Watts is the name of the guy that goes, who was the original one-hand killer, and when he visits him in the prison, Michael, he's holding a Cormac McCarthy book.
Yes, I saw that.
The Sunset Limited. And this is
that's the guy who wrote The Road, Ben.
Yes, that's the guy who wrote The Road. And that's depressing as fuck. But this is the Sunset Limited is a little bit different, Michael. The Sunset Limited is a script that he wrote, and it's actually a film with Samuel L. Jackson and Tommy Lee Jones, but it was a stage play. And the crux of it is, I'll read you a quote here from Ram V himself. He said when he was thinking of... no, I will not do that.
I think he might be Indian, Benjamin, so we're going to get you to do the voice now. Do the voice, the one you're always doing off air. Do that one.
That's that. None of that is true, you fucker. So he said when he was coming up with the comic... Yes.
Does Ram V has huge traps? Is that why you've been working out?
That's why I've donned my own huge traps in a pump-up suit.
Very good.
Just for this episode.
Huge
I said
traps.
I'll do a little nod to Ram V that only the hardcore Ram V fans will get. But he said when he was addressing this, he said it was a combination of reading Cormac McCarthy and then listening to a podcast that Dan recommended to me called Philosophy Bites. The podcast was about the post-work societies and how this idea that one day the machine singularity would happen and machines would make more machines and they would do all our work and we would be free to pursue higher knowledge, which is a funny thing to listen to right after reading McCarthy's The Sunset Limited, where he says... The pursuit of all knowledge leads only to darkness. My brain just went, oh, there's a story there. It did that at 3 a.m, so I messaged Dan and I went, can we chat?
What are you up? What are you wearing?
Are you up, as it were? So, The Sunset Limited is this idea. It's a play between a janitor and a professor of, I think, philosophy. And the professor is going to take his own life and the janitor intervenes, and then the professor wants to go back to his everyday life, but he gets stuck in this philosophical debate with the janitor, and the play essentially focuses on this notion of the grey area of the world. So the professor sees things in a very empirical fashion because he's a very learned man, and he assumes that all the knowledge he has garnered has led him to understanding the world as it is, but that has profoundly depressed him, essentially.
Yeah, I know what that's like, Ben.
Sure, look, Michael, you being the font of all knowledge, there's not a day that goes by, I don't worry, that it weighs down on you heavily. Heavily. Look at him there, ladies and gentlemen. Just crumpling under the weight of his own girthy brain.
I wish I
Although
had
this
huge
is a good
traps.
time, this is a good time, ladies and gentlemen, to give Michael a boost. If you've been enjoying this episode or this podcast in general, give us a review wherever you listen and check out all the fun links down below. If you're someone who wants to collaborate with us, because we're now followed by none other than Laurence Campbell, who draws one half of this comic book run on our Instagram. We're getting out there, ladies and gentlemen. We're influencers. We were approached by an off-brand card company recently to try out one of their packets. Ladies and gentlemen, the collaborations are flowing. So why don't you send us an email at collectingissues@gmail.com. Go on. Click on it down below there in the thing. But do give us a review wherever you're listening. And if you've been enjoying the episode, leave us a comment and let us know what you think.
Please do, yeah.
Go on. And if you're more interested in dropping this kind of thing, or if you're more interested in taking part in this kind of discussion in the future, join our Discord. It's linked below in the description. Go on, hop up on it there. Get involved.
On it. Benjamin, you were talking about Cormac McCarthy and his sad janitors.
I was, yeah. So this was the major influence there. And so there's the kind of trifecta, if you want, of what's driving this narrative overall. Number one, the pursuit of knowledge is intensely dangerous and possibly life-destroying, right? Number two, Sisyphus is a thing. But very importantly, the full myth of Sisyphus is what is being referenced here. So, do you know why Sisyphus was punished, Michael?
Yes, he trapped the god of time, was it? Or death, Thanatos.
God of death, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sisyphus was
Tricked
a real
him.
clever clogs, right? A real clever clogs in Greek society back in the day. And he wanted to prove how intelligent he was, so he trapped death and unlocked immortality. But Ada has a little speech on this, Michael, and she explains the absolute horror of a world without death, where everyone just perpetually exists with malady or illness or pain constant. There is no sweet relief of death, as it were. And that is the linchpin of this narrative. And again, spoilers, ladies and gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary. Spoilers!
Yeah,
Out
no,
of
we're
that.
way too deep in now, Ben, to worry about spoilers.
I know, just in case. But the linchpin is no one in this zoo, as you call it, Michael, can die. They're stuck in a loop.
They just,
And it's
they just
driving
get
them
fixed up
batty.
and brought back. Yeah, they get fixed up and
Yeah.
brought back.
And that's what's happening. So it's the original myth of Sisyphus that's driving it there. And it makes for a really interesting comic in terms of what's being pushed. So I suppose, Michael, we can't talk any further about this without touching on the art and visuals. Because
All right.
this
Keep
time,
one of the
Michael...
key parts, yeah.
Yeah, one of the key parts is, so we've already talked a little bit about the style differences, and I'll get into those in a little bit. But one of the big things about this, Michael, is the glyph system that runs throughout the comic.
Kept popping up everywhere.
Yeah. The glyphs are the killer's manifesto, and it's how Ari knows that he's dealing with the one-hand killer again, because they never release details of the glyph and cipher that he paints on the wall in his victim's blood. They never release that to the public. So only the killer could know that glyph system. And that glyph system was actually designed by a separate entity in this, Michael. You can see his name listed on the front of the comic. Tom Muller was a designer who was brought in specifically to render this glyph system into the comic. And
Cool.
again, Michael, speaking of the idea of mystery and keeping your reader engaged and plumbing the depths of it, this sparked a huge amount of interest from readers. They got really obsessed with this notion of
Solving it.
what do the glyphs mean? How do they operate? To the point that one person actually came up with the glyph, and it's revealed over the course of the comic. And I'm going to show it to you here, Michael, just for the shits and giggles of it.
And I'm
But
dying to see this.
one Redditor went to town on this. A Redditor known as Craven J1 went to town on this. And the glyphs were mapped out in issue 3 of the comic, and they correspond to the alphabet. And this is what it looks like. So,
Hello, my name is Craven. I am here to spend 3 months in your beautiful country working as bartender. Then I return post-university. It's a very Irish joke.
that is very Irish. So this is it here, Michael. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It has all 26 letters of the alphabet have a corresponding glyph within the comic.
One of the most boring and basic ciphers I've ever seen, Benjamin. I thought there was going to be a lot more than this.
Oh, I'm sorry, my friend. I'm sorry to have disappointed you. But
Yes.
Someone went and dug this out, and they discovered that the glyphs have a particular message that they are pushing over and over and over and over again. And it's a very unusual message, but again, one that builds in tonally very well with the rest of the comic. So the glyph reads, "The arrowhead is the Rosetta Stone to teach you to finish, to understand the gaps between." That's the phrase.
Oh, that's translated in the comic. I thought that was someone speaking, but no, it's the characters being able to finally understand the glyphs. Ah, I see.
Yeah. So we get this really cool revelation of kind of the machine speaking, as it were, to different characters. And this is what I meant a little bit earlier, Michael, when I gave the kind of elevator pitch of what if Neo didn't have Morpheus to hold his hand, and you suddenly woke up in a system and the system was like, "Hey, pay attention," and you were like, "No, I'm going mad, this is terrible news."
I'm just going to kill a lot of people and write messages in their blood. Bear with me a moment. I don't think they're real, so that's fine. Fuck, that sounds like a lot of people who've probably had psychotic episodes and killed people.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the newly minted phrase ChatGPT psychosis. That's fun. Don't use ChatGPT, gang. It's not good for you. It's going to drive you mad. But yeah, so that's one amazing aspect of this. But I spoke to you a little bit earlier, Michael, about the distinct styles that were happening here. So originally, Laurence Campbell was going to be tapped to illustrate both issues. And Dan Waters actually said, no, I think the heavy noir style of Laurence Campbell works really well for Ari's narrative or Ari's story.
Did Dan Waters say, "I hate Laurence Campbell, get rid of him"?
He didn't say that. No, that's
not
not
what you're saying. He said,
"Yeah, will you stop that, Michael? You pot stirring
I'm trying
son of a gun."
I'm trying to sow discord in the one hand and six finger community.
So he was actually looking for it. So Dan Waters wanted something a bit more fluid and frenetic to symbolize Johannes's descent into what he originally assumes is madness, but what is instead revealed, what is instead revealed to almost unhinged revelation, as it were. And you can kind of see that in how Sumit Kumar narrates the city. He has a very, in comparison to Laurence Campbell's style, which is very dark, very grim in its own way, Sumit Kumar's style is a biotechnological horror. It's sinew and muscle and flesh and murder and little mutated fingers, and it's very carnal in some ways. It's really weird. And it works really well. And again, it probably works so well because Lee Loughridge is the one colorist that meshes it all together, Michael. And there's two distinct color panels that happen so that we can track perspective. The covers of both of these issues are phenomenal, but we know that it's part of the one hand or Ari's story if it's in red and black, and we know that it's part of Johannes' story or the Six Fingers if it's in yellow and black. And those are the kind of two distinct visuals that go through this. From an art perspective, Michael, I could not get over this. I think as the story continues, the narrative style becomes more layered. We've got glyphs, we've got sequences of text that exist. And I think one of the phenomenal talents that Laurence Campbell brings to this is repeating imagery embedded in the environment. So I'm thinking specifically, Michael, of sometimes different panels reveal the glyphs operating in the city facade. One example is when...
Yeah, when he's looking at when he's in the widow's house, and the family portraits are in the shape of the glyph, and then when it comes out and we see the grid of the suburb, and the grid of the suburb is one of the glyphs as well. Yeah, that's great. I really like that. I'm really disappointed that glyph means A. I really wish it had been deeper. I really wish it had been deeper.
I've ruined that for you. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
Because
it's immediately thrown me back to the X Factor run from the late 90s, early 2000s, where Dupe, the character, was introduced. and
Oh,
dupe
yeah.
speaks in dupe speak.
Yeah.
And it took readers about 3 weeks to figure out dupe speak. Basically, once he said enough words, it just turned out to be a direct cipher.
Yeah, that he just had to...
It's so disappointing because the whole comic is about no one's been able to figure it out. Don't waste your time trying to figure it out. And I suppose now that I've said that, I do actually like it a bit more because they went, no one's been able to figure it out. Don't waste your time trying to figure it out. So I didn't, on the assumption that the comic wasn't going to give us enough information to figure it out. And now I'm kind of kicking myself that it did and I didn't.
And I didn't go away and figure it out. But I think, similarly to how we talked about how the characters ignore the anachronism of the cogs, I think the simplicity of the glyph system is probably another nod to the fact that anyone in the world with a passing understanding of codes and ciphers would have it solved in 5 minutes. But it's like another blind spot that the system has built in. They they're like, what does it mean? Oh, and it's staring them right in the face.
Oh, you've brought it back for me, Ben. I like it again. I actually like it again now. I've gone through a whole journey there. Well done, Dan Waters and Ran V. That you've brought me back on board.
It was good work from them. Like, I liked it. I think it was good. But like, it is a fascinating kind of look. I think that environmental overlay of the glyphs in the world is one of my favorite aspects of this. And some of the other repetitive imagery is great, especially towards the end, the kind of denouement of the whole thing where Johannes unravels completely and Ari is kind of forced to confront the zoo-like quality of his world. But we see a lot more mentions of the desk toys and kind of the monotonous exhaustion of the desk toys. And this becomes a fascinating thing for me because it's one of the drinking bird desk toys and becomes a thing towards the end of the comic.
Yeah, there's a drinking bird and a Newton's cradle and all the rest.
Yeah.
All of those kind of repetitive action physics toys.
Exactly. Repetitive action physics toys is the perfect way of describing them because that's what the characters in the comic are going through. They are repetitive action physics toys that are forced to perpetually go through this. And one of the strange mysteries that we find out inspired Johannes to become an archaeologist is the arrowhead that he keeps going on about. Oh, it's a mysterious arrowhead from another civilization, and he keeps holding it up to people and showing them. But at the end...
But no one's ever interested. Everyone's
no one's ever interested. They can't see
get
it.
That
They're
out
John Cena it.
Yeah. That's very good. That's very clever. And they're like,
no
just
one's
get
interested.
a normal job, Johannes. And he's like, but look at this. And they're like, nah, we don't care about that.
Look at this fucking thing, huh?
Yeah.
This is what I
great.
mean.
Yeah.
So whatever ghost in the machine is trying to wake the cogs up, within the Matrix system. This is what I meant earlier by how it chooses people like Nemone to be the victim, or how there's a strange narrative built around this arrowhead because that's what engages certain characters to pull at the thread. So I think whatever the ghost in the machine is, be it Odell or whatever, is literally finding the objects of significance for the characters and drawing them into the plot, which is a nice way of sidestepping the irritating coincidence that pops up in a lot of detective fiction, where it's like, oh, the A plot and the B plot have been overlapping all along.
Your own brother is the killer, John Broadchurch.
Johnny B. So there's a whole load of interesting stuff going on there. But I thought the art in this was spectacular from start to finish. Very consistent, very lacking in face blindness, very grim and gritty in places, and maddening in others. Very enjoyable, very good.
Yeah, very good. Relatively few characters to keep track of as well, which is nice.
Which is always nice.
Quite easy to make them distinctive.
Yeah, always nice to have distinct characters that we don't have to fret about cropping up 100 million times. Which I suppose, Michael, brings us to character highlights.
Very
Who was your favourite in this little comic?
I could take or leave Johannes, to be honest. The tortured genius, I get it. It's the tortured genius who's the killer. I liked our... Look, they're stereotypes. They are stereotypes. And they're stereotypes for a reason. every single character in it is a stereotype. Even Nimone is the classic damsel
Femme
in
fatale.
distress, femme fatale, Joy from Blade Runner, Rachel from Blade Runner. She's the classic mysterious younger woman driving on the grizzled old detective, and Harry is the grizzled old detective. All of the characters play a role. The tropes of the characters are more important than the characters.
Yeah.
I like my favorite bit of characterization in the whole thing is how Ari solved the tumbler.
Okay.
How Ari, the story of how he doesn't have a fascinating grim backstory about how he became a detective. He was handed an expensive briefcase one day, and his way of getting into the expensive briefcase was to start the 4-pin tumbler on 000 and try every number up until it got to like whatever the code was, 2479. So he tried thousands of combinations until literally his fingers bled, and he got it. And that's a really nice. I know someone like that. So do you. It's a mutual friend of ours who would do exactly that thing. And I've seen him. I've seen him in situations literally with his fingers bleeding, and he won't stop until he gets the answer.
Yeah,
and
until he cracks it.
It is an absolute great bit of character study. I love that a lot more than kind of anything Johannes does, to be honest.
Yeah, so Johannes is a really interesting one because he is insufferable to some degree. He is the genius who's tired with society, and you know, it's fun when it's Doctor Doom, but it's really boring when it's someone you meet in a pub. But I read in an interview with Ram V that it was really important that he be a little bit insufferable. Yeah, it's to do with the fact that and he called it delusional. So he says the delusional aspect of Johannes is what makes him likely to pull at the thread, because he thinks that he understands things better than other people. So he's naturally convinced of his own superiority, and it actually makes sense that he would try different things that other people might not, if that makes sense. So I thought that was very interesting from a point of view, but I think it's so harsh calling your own character like delusional. But it is. He absolutely is. And in comparison with Ari, he's a real half character because he doesn't get the same detective monologue almost, coaching you through what he's thinking. Or
I get that. And I mean, the scene where he breaks up with he understands that his girlfriend is breaking up with him and talks her through it. Classic. Like, he's that guy from NCIS. You know that guy I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Who do you know that character's name?
I don't know his name. I don't know his name.
The genius, nerdy doctor guy.
Oh, he's Reed.
Guy, yes,
he's Reed from Criminal Minds.
Yes.
Reed from Criminal Minds. Yes, he is.
He's that character. Yeah. He's, you know,
you're spot
he's
on.
super insightful. He's working a dead-end job because it gives him time to think. Now, I'm not saying these as criticisms, because I've just used the fact that Harry is just tropes to complement that character. Because my point is that the characters are playing the roles, not the characters.
Yeah.
So the character of the super insightful, lazy genius is more important than Johannes.
Sure.
If you follow me.
He has to be the savant, as it were.
Yeah. It's the story of the savant and the grizzled, hard-working. Like, Harry is defined by hard work. He's not a standout genius. He's just pure hard work and determination. And Johannes has almost no hard work and determination. He doesn't want to work. He just wants to go on flights of fancy and insight.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you. It's so interesting. So I suppose we're coming to the end of the episode here, Michael. Good God. This one has flown by. But I want to talk about just very, very quickly here towards the end of the comic, because the great ending is
Plot twist, ladies and gentlemen. Benjamin has never done anything very, very quickly. So there's probably a good 15 minutes left. But hang on to your seats.
You're damn right. Thank you for that compliment, Michael. Never rushed anything in my life. Never been too quick for anything.
Never
Wink.
been too quick. Yeah. He means in sex, I think. I think that's what he's getting. I think that's what he's getting at.
But the end scene of this, Michael, is pretty bizarre. So the layers are peeled back, and Ari. So this happens between issue 10 of the one hand and issue 9.
No,
chronologically, and issue 10 or issue 5 and 5 of the respective series. One is where Ari wanders into the kind of wasteland and he finds a signal tower, and then he's shown a script of his initial conversation with the psychologist, who's rebranded as the Keeper in the script. So it's the detective and the Keeper. So further to your idea of the character playing the role, that's his role. He's the detective. And the psychologist that keeps him focused is the Keeper. That's what they're called.
Ergo vis-a-vis Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. And then the Keeper says, "Why would you choose to not be happy?" is the final line. And what finishes that, Michael, is one of the bloody drinking birds that goes and dips into the thing. And it's phenomenal because it's heavily implied that Ari basically goes back to his life in the city. And we see it kind of all reach ahead, Michael, in the final couple of panels in the last issue, where all the cogs go up to the roof, bar Ada and some people. Some cogs don't get corrupted by the glyph. And that's something I didn't really get, but I don't think... I'll probably have to reread it to get it. But many cogs chuck themselves off the roof then.
Yeah. Including Helen?
Yep. Nemine or Helene or whatever she's rebranded as, she chucks herself off the roof. Johannes, of course, is shot by Ari. And then someone emerges from one of the city labyrinths, takes the little arrowhead, and puts it back on the drinking toy to kind of reset the interrogation room that he was in. And once that happens, Ada walks outside. A body comes hurtling down from up above, and it kicks off this bizarre sequence. Again, Michael, just a testament to the art of this, where the little dipping beak starts to go in and out of the thing as hundreds of cogs throw themselves off the roofs of Neo Novena. Fascinatingly dark to end it all.
And then it's over.
And then it's over. Then it's done. What a comic. Nom nom nom. Nom nom nom.
I thoroughly enjoyed this, Benjamin. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I did too.
Is there going to be more, you son of a bitch?
I don't know, Michael. They haven't said. This is very recent, Michael. We are on the cusp of comic book writing here. This is 2024. December 2024, to be very specific.
That's nearly this year.
That's nearly this year, Michael. That is nearly this year. Holy moly. But I really enjoyed this. I was worried initially that it was just going to be a by the numbers kind of detective thing, and it turned out to be something very, very different. What I really liked about this is it's not trying to play with the narrative conventions of hard-boiled detective fiction, but it's using them as a mechanic in the story to tell something that's just as interesting, but it's not worried about having elements of Blade Runner to it, or elements of The Matrix to it, or elements of Seven to it. It's not worried about any of that, and it's not trying to do a big... I started with M. Night Shyamalan, so I'll finish with M. Night Shyamalan. It's not trying to do a big, you didn't see that coming, did you? Aha, I got you. There you go. There's the wool off your eyes, sheeple. It's not doing any of that. It's just telling an interesting story using established tropes.
Benjamin, I don't know if this is... Yeah, exactly. I don't know if this is insightful or stupid, what I'm about to say. But you said something there that clicked with me straight away, which was it's not playing with the genre. But it kind of is playing with the genre, but it's playing 100% within the lines of the genre.
Yeah.
It's playing by the rules of the genre to then tell a kind of emergent story about playing inside the lines. And that is actually the story, as it turns out.
You back?
Yeah, I never left. I finished saying, and that is the story, as it turns out.
Very good. Well, yeah. So that is the story, Michael. Ahaha.
As it turns out.
As it turns out. Well, Michael, that was a great L read. But we've got other great reads coming up. Would you like to hear some of them?
I already know because I've been reading them, Ben. You sent me a list. But for the conceit
excellent.
of the podcast, let's
For the
do
conceit of the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try and bring you a few more episodes. A little bit shorter form than this hour and something that you get monthly. Our next one is going to be Beta Ray Bill, Argent Star, by Daniel Warren Johnson, which is going to serve as a little bit of a taster for July's book club read, which is Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson. A space odyssey.
That's why you're getting a hench.
You see? You see?
You see?
You see? You see what I'm
Powerbomb
doing?
on me.
Layers. Gonna powerbomb Michael in a promo.
All right.
And then I'm gonna get my ass kicked by a man who studied MMA techniques and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu most of his life. Versus me, who's occasionally watched WWE with my partner.
Yeah, but hench, though.
But hench, though. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at Daniel Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill, Argent Star, which is set in between the storylines of our last comic, Michael, which was Prey, the Prey run from Donny Cates. But this is a little story on how Beta Ray Bill got his groove back, as it were.
How Beta Ray Bill stopped being so useless.
Yeah, stopped being a beta. Now he's Alpha Ray Bill.
Alpha Ray. Sigma Ray Bill.
Sigma Ray Bill. And then following that, our big long read of the month, ladies and gentlemen, is Do a Powerbomb, which centers around one young woman's journey to win a cosmic wrestling contest in order to unlock a wish that might somehow correct her life. Ooh.
That's kind of intriguing.
Yeah. And we love wrestling here on the podcast, so that'll be good crack. And then, ladies and gentlemen, if you want even more stuff coming up for you, just to keep you intrigued, August is going to feature the short, bloody comic Zatanna Bringing Down the House from Javier Rodriguez and Mamiko Torre, I think. I need to double check that one, but that'll be our short read of August. And then our long read of August, Michael, is going to be 20th Century Men from Image Comics. That's us. We're 20th century men. Well, we're not. We're 21st century men, but still. Well, you're not.
20th century.
No, but
born in
neither
the
of us
20th
are. We're
century,
20th century. We're 20th century men, Michael. That's us.
That's us.
But, ladies and gentlemen, come here to me. Come here to me.
Yes, what is it?
Listen.
What?
Listen.
I'm listening.
If you enjoyed this, if you had a good time, if you'd like to do a little bit more, follow the podcast. Go down to the link down below there. Give us a little follow. If you're listening to us on Spotify, give us a little follow. If you've watched this on YouTube, just hit subscribe there. Give us a like. Lash it on up there. If you disagree with anything we were talking about, or if you have a different interpretation of anything that we got on about, shut up. Don't say anything. We are the authority. Leave us a comment. You can leave us a comment on Spotify. God, brave new world, Michael. You can leave us a comment on YouTube. You can get in touch with us directly on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, or if you want to continuously tell us we're wrong, hop up on the Discord. Get up on
Hop up on the Discord. If you join the Discord, I will give you Ben's private WhatsApp number, and then you could even more continuously tell him he's wrong. That's what I use it for.
Cyberbully me at any hour of the day, ladies and gentlemen.
Great
It'll
stuff.
be fabulous.
Text him at 3 a.m. saying, Ben, I've had an idea for a podcast. You up?
But that's it from us for this week, ladies and gentlemen and friends beyond the binary. Thank you very, very much for joining us once again on Collecting Issues, your monthly comic book club.
See ya.
Bye.